Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, General DePasquale, for being here today. I appreciate it very much. I wanted to talk briefly and ask you some questions about the municipal pension situation. Certainly has appeared to me, at least statewide, that you've been a tireless leader in reaching out at this point to advocate for municipal pension reform. And I think the proof is it transcends party politics. We see a lot of Democratic mayors. You've been out front. And if my recollection's right, in the governor's address, there was some brief comments made to strengthen both state level and the municipal pension reforms. Going back to the beginning of the year, you actually had put out a report concerning municipal pension systems too, and I thought it was very poignant. There were 8 recommendations to address underfunding, and there are also 5 recommendations to address the systemic problems related to the problem. And I do think it's very serious, and I think we see it both at state and municipal. That being said, I was wondering, considering all the work you've done, have you had the opportunity to speak with Governor Wolf? Has he reached out to you at all, or any of his deputies, to try to deal with this very complex issue?
Yeah. Thank you, first of all, for the question. We have not met with the governor or his team specifically on municipal pensions yet. We have met with various mayors and chambers from across the state. You know, we've talked about the $8 billion, just under $8 billion in unfunded municipal pension liability. And as you've clearly read the report, we do have 13 what we think are common sense recommendations on how to fix this issue. And we're prepared to work with anyone to get this done. We view this as one of the most, and when I say underreported, I'm not talking as a criticism of the media, but a lot of times because of the sheer dollar figures of our state pensions, they get most of the publicity and attention. But I believe this municipal pension problem is going to be a major drag on our economy if it's not fixed. I'm going to just talk about one area specifically, and that is the city of Scranton will go bankrupt within the next 2 to 4 years without a fix. You want to talk about an economic impact, not only just how it'll hurt the people on the pension, but the taxpayers of the Scranton area and the whole entire economy of the northeastern part of the state. I was just in Pittsburgh yesterday, or when I say yesterday, it was Wednesday last week, time flies. Here's what is happening in Pittsburgh. They've already sold, a decade ago, their water and sewer authority. So they had a major cash infusion from that. They are putting in parking revenue, gaming revenue, and we're in a booming stock market, and they went from 62% to 58% funded in just in a 2-year period. So they're doing everything you could imagine, and it's still getting worse.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts after you say that, because it certainly sounds like we need structural changes. Just selling off assets like that doesn't seem like that's going to be the solution. Obviously, it hasn't worked in some of the other areas, other cities that we've tried that. And certainly, like I said, this is only a city issue. There's, it's townships and boroughs. We certainly have this issue. Let me ask you. You talk about Scranton. Let's look at just Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. I mean, is it possible that we could have a Detroit? I mean, we have 2 large cities in this state. Is it possible that we could have a scenario or a situation like they have in Detroit in the cities of that magnitude here in this Commonwealth?
And I think it was some world socialist organization called me a fearmonger on this. So I get this, but I want to say this point blank: without a statewide fix, it's not possible that will happen. It will happen. It's not possible. It will happen without a statewide fix. And I actually think Scranton will happen well before Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. Pittsburgh actually, compared to some other municipalities, and again, it's all relative. I'm not saying they're in solid shape, but compared to some other municipalities, they're in solid shape. Again, I'm only talking about in comparison.
Exactly.
Scranton, I think, would be the first to go. And Philadelphia has about a $5 billion unfunded liability. And I think the legislature here with the governor, I think in the previous administration, gave them sales tax revenue, I'm going off memory here, to pump additional revenue in, and it's still not enough. But again, Pittsburgh, I think, is a great example of how challenging this is. They sold off their water and sewer authority. They're putting in gaming revenue, parking revenue, well above what they're even mandated to do under our state law. And as most people know, the stock market the last 4 years has gone very well. And even during that time period, it's gotten worse. And when I say 58% funded, just so everyone understands what I'm talking about with that, that is assuming the rate of return that they've projected. And under state law, you can go between 5 and 9 on rate of return. So that 58% unfunded liability is assuming, right now for Pittsburgh, a 7.5% rate of return. If we have a year where it's 6 or 5, that 58 drops below 50 very quickly. Again, without them doing anything wrong. I mean, we're not suggesting them doing anything wrong. That's simply changes in the stock market. So when you hear 58% funded, that's assuming a 7.5% rate of return. Scranton, their fire pension, and I want everyone to write this number down. Their fire pension is 16% funded at a 7.5% anticipated rate of return. That means when I say 2 to 4, that's assuming 7.5. If we have a year where they have, and again, we don't want this to happen, but if there is a year, perhaps in the next year, where the stock market holds flat or their fund holds flat or dips a little bit, that 4 years to bankruptcy shrinks very quickly.
I appreciate that information. Like I said, I know it's challenging. I know you've been out front, and from what I understand, you said you're going to work in a bipartisan fashion. You obviously have, because we have Republicans, we have Democrat mayors, we have a lot of people trying to solve this issue. I do thank you for your time. I thank Mr. Chairman for allowing me to ask the question.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Representative. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you.